Let's bring in Dr. Alan Mendoza. He's Executive Director at the Foreign Policy think tank, the Henry Jackson Society. Alan, Lviv is near the border with Poland. This is on the other side of Ukraine, hundreds of miles from where the front lines of this war has been. It's been targeted before, but why do you think Russia has attacked it now in this moment?
Well, I think it's part of a general response, if you like, to what happened in Russia a couple of weeks ago with the sort of sense that Mr. Putin is weak. And what he's trying to show is that, in fact, he's strong and that he can strike at will within Ukraine. And indeed, you're correct to note that, of course, Lviv is the other side of the country to where most of the action has been. But it's a reminder that, of course, Russia is targeting civilians at any cost, that they wish to kind of cause the maximum damage and destruction they can do, and that, frankly, nowhere in Ukraine or beyond will be safe until this war is concluded.
In the middle of all this, we've got Yevgeny Prigozhin, the Wagner mercenary chief, who's kind of become this other player in this conflict. And we heard today from Alexander Lukashenko, the president of Belarus, that Yevgeny Prigozhin is now in St. Petersburg in Russia. We thought he was supposed to be in Belarus as part of this deal to end the recent mutiny. What do you make of what's going on here?
Well, it's all becoming a bit Lord Lucan-esque, isn't it? Is he there? Is he here? Is he everywhere? It does seem very unusual. Of course, we haven't seen him himself, so everyone's saying he's here or there, and the man himself at the centre of it is not seen. Superficially, if he is back in Russia, that's quite an extraordinarily bold step on his part. There was a deal done, which allegedly led to his leaving Russia. For him to come back and to go to St. Petersburg, which was, of course, his hometown, but also Putin's base of power originally, is somewhat provocative. And you do have to wonder whether either he is courting Putin to try and take him out, if you like, in some kind of assassination attempt, or they have actually managed to work out some kind of deal of some kind, in which case Prigozhin will no doubt appear at some point doing something for the Russian president. But it's entirely unclear. It's all speculation at this point, but it does seem rather unusual. And until we actually see where he is, it's going to be difficult to work out exactly what the truth is.
I mean, there's been lots of talk about disguises, hasn't there? He appears differently and he might be in hiding. We just don't know. It's all very bizarre.
Yes, I mean, completely unknown. And again, until we get a clear indication of, kind of physical proof of where he is, I think we have to just take all this with a pinch of salt. And it is, of course, causing a lot of intrigue. If he's there by Putin's invitation, that's one thing, although it would look very weak on Putin's part to bring him back. If he's not there by Putin's invitation, it makes Putin look even weaker, because the very man who threatened him is now, sneaked back into Russia under his nose and seems to be getting away with it.
This might be a hard question to answer, but do we know if there's still lots of support for Yevgeny Prigozhin across Russia? Is he more popular in certain pockets of the country? It's hard for us to know, I guess, because we hear so much of the same narrative from Putin.
Yes, obviously we don't have the ability to, if you like, go in and take opinion polls of Russians to discover who is popular. All we have are the anecdotal things. For example, when he was leaving Rostov, he was being applauded by civilians. It seemed he was genuinely popular. They weren't happy to see the army back, as it were. It's unclear whether that translates beyond that particular area. Don't forget, Rostov is, of course, very close to the war zone and is Russian military headquarters. Whether that impacts in St. Petersburg or Moscow or beyond is unclear. What we do know, I think, is that Russians were genuinely very concerned by the chaos that occurred 2 weeks ago. And I'm not sure he would be necessarily welcomed by the Moscow elite as taking charge, but he may well have strong support for Russians who want a stronger leader.
I'm just going to pivot slightly away from Russia and Ukraine to Iran, because today the Foreign Secretary announced greater powers for the UK to issue sanctions against Iran. So the government says since the start of 2022, last year, Britain has responded to more than 15 credible threats to kill or kidnap British or UK-based individuals by the Iranian regime. What do you make of what's been announced by the Foreign Secretary today?
Well, obviously, it's welcome that we can now take on, if you like, people who try to commit murder on British soil, and that we can, sanction them effectively. But in a sense, we are, moving very slowly against this. There have been 15 threats. A foreign state has orchestrated 15 threats on British soil. I really think we should be going a lot further than what's been happening right now. One of the main issues that people have rightly been raising is the prescription of the IRGC, if you like, the shock troops of the Iranian regime. Until something like that is done, you're really just, kind of doing pinprick, kind of reaction to the regime. What you really need is to put it and its sort of most effective troops on notice that they are banned terrorist organizations, and that should really be the place we should be heading to. Now, maybe that's the next step, but we should get there a lot quicker than we are right now.